Hello, this is Douglas Robinson with DevEdit Software LLC, and today we're going to be troubleshooting an error that I ran into today with a business object form definition. So I was trying to put together a map, and as I was doing so, I went to navigate to my incident form, and I opened up the default form for my incident. Oh, sorry, that's not it. I'm still troubleshooting things. What I need to do is I need to reset my catalog. I've since gone and fixed this, but I decided to recreate it for a video. I was navigating through my incident form, and when I opened it, I ended up getting a really strange error message telling me that a object reference error occurred. So here we're going to open up our incident form, and this is the error message that I got. So I opened this up, and it says object reference not set to an instance of an object. Now this really threw me off because I usually don't expect to get this error message when I'm opening a form. When I'm publishing something or running a one-step or actually doing something, I totally understand getting an error message. This just happened, after whatever some other change that I made. I don't remember the last time I changed my incident business object. I don't know what would have caused this, but I just got a random object reference error. And I look down at the stack trace here, and the first thing that I notice is that it says source is Trebuchet Windows Forms. That's fine. And then the very first line here says embedded form control adapter dot get underscore relationship def, something about set form. And anyways, what gets me about this is that it says embedded form. So it kind of tells me what I'm going to be looking for on this form. But the thing that gets me is, I do this, it opens up, it gives me an error, I click OK, it gives me another error. Anyways, and then I get this blank form, and I can't edit my default form for an incident. I can edit my grid, I can edit my business object details, but I can't edit the form, and I also can't edit the form arrangement. That's also pretty strange. I get a very similar error message, and it's the exact same error message about an embedded form control adapter. And in this video, I'm just going to go over how I troubleshot this and how I found the cause of this error. So the very first thing that I did, since I couldn't open my default form, is I wanted to find out whether this was an issue in the business object definition, like maybe it wasn't finding that form, or maybe it was an issue just with the form itself. And so the very first thing I did is I opened my definition editor. I found the business object def for incident, and I scrolled down until I found the default form ID. And basically I just cut this out. I want it to be blank, and I pasted it into Notepad++ so I would have a copy of it somewhere, and then I saved my business object def. And what this does is it takes away your default form so that it doesn't think you have one. And then I went to catalog, and I invalidated my catalogs, and I restarted my administrator tool so that I could go into incident and then try to hit that edit form button again. And I want to get to a point where the application actually functions as I expect. And at this point, I'm expecting it's going to create a new form because it can't find the default form. And so when I click edit form, it does just that. It creates a new form called incident 1. If I go into my form dropdown, I can now get to the point where I see my other forms, and I can start testing stuff out. I can see, hey, my vendor info form works, my resolution details form works, my other forms in Cherwell work, but I get an error message on the incident default form. And that tells me that there's something specific on that form that's broken. So to troubleshoot this further, since I know that this error message is telling me that it's specifically an issue with a embedded form control, and I know that because it says stack trace at Trebuchet Windows Forms embedded form control adapter. The very first thing I noticed is that it said it's having an issue getting a relationship def. So what I did is I went to the definition editor, and I tried to open up that form. And to do this, we'll go to bizob form def, and we'll find incident, and that's this one right here. And essentially, I just copied it out to Notepad++, and you can see that right here. So I went into my bizob form def, and I'll scroll all the way up at the top so you can follow along. And essentially, I just searched for the word embedded because the control that we're looking for is an embedded form, and they're pretty standard in the way that they describe these things, so I just decided I'm going to search my form definition for the word embedded. And sure enough, it brought up a control def element with a subtype of embedded form. And you'll notice if I try to click to the next one, there's only one, so I must be looking at the right item. So this right here is our embedded form definition. Now, this is based on a specific relationship. I don't know what that relationship is. It should be our relationship to specifics because we can find that. And you'll notice the empty text is, if a specifics form is available after classification, it will appear here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if this relationship still exists. To do that, I'm going to use a search for IDs function to make sure that this is actually that relationship. And you'll notice it says right here, incident owns specifics, incident owns specifics, incident. If I click go to definition, that part doesn't work. But if we go to relationship defs, we can then find our incident owns specifics relationship. And that's this one right here. So we know the relationship definition exists, but for some reason when we have a business object form def that references it using an embedded form control, it doesn't load. I don't know why it's not loading, but I can tell you that the last time I modified my incident form was before I upgraded to version 9.1.1. I upgraded from version 9.0.1 to 9.1.1. And the reason I did that was so that I would have access to some of the features that were available in version 9.1.1. So really this is a video about troubleshooting that specific issue, but I'll go over how I fixed this. Is essentially I went back to my business object form definition. And that's this definition right here, and I have it copied out into Notepad++. Essentially what I did is I decided, you know what, I know how that control is configured. It's definitely throwing an issue. I don't know why it's throwing an issue, so I'm going to delete it and I'm going to see if that fixes the issue. And really I didn't delete it. I copied it out into a separate tab in Notepad++ so that if I needed to, I could copy it back in, or I could hit Control-Z like this. But essentially I removed that element from the business object form def, and then I went back into my definition editor and pasted it in, and I hit save to update it. So now what I need to do is I need to invalidate my definition catalogs. I need to restart my administrator tool. And it'll take a moment to load. And then I should be able to edit that form. I still don't know why it broke. I imagine, since it's right after an upgrade, it's just due to some random way that they handle embedded forms now. But if I needed to, I could go and copy and paste my embedded form back onto this business object. And this was our incident owns specifics relationship. And there we go. So that's this isn't read-only. We do want to allow scroll bars, and that's all I really had to do in order to get this to load on my incident form. So I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to try to publish this. I should be able to go back into my form. Oh no, it definitely didn't work there. Okay, well I know that I have a bug with specifics forms. I'm not sure exactly why. I can tell you a few moments ago it was actually loading something in my form that looked a lot like this form right here. I'm not sure why. Oh, I've stumbled upon it. So I was looking at my form properties earlier when I was defining this, and I noticed I didn't set in a name. I don't know why it didn't give it a name. I'm going to try giving this form a name. Okay. Sorry, I'm all over the place on this video. So I created this business object. I was trying to create a map, And that map, you'll see it on the Exchange soon, is going to be for a journal one-step history business object that you can use for tracking well, one-step executions. And all this map is going to do is going to give you a journal with 2 new fields, one-step name, business object name, and you'll be able to write to it to record what your business object's going to be doing. And what I noticed was I hit new business object or new group member, right? Didn't fill anything out. Looked at these check boxes, got a little distracted, clicked OK. It let me create a new business object without giving it a name. I didn't notice this at first. Then I went and created a form. Dragged some stuff onto the form. Now we have a form that exists with no name. And then I created a grid. This one I might have used a wizard for. And now we have a grid with no name. And the reason for that is that it's, oh no, the grid populated with 1. It's probably because our other grid for that other business object doesn't have a name. And the reason for that is because we created our business object without a name, which is crazy. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give this thing a separate name so that I can delete the original. Great. Let me go here. I'm going to make this one the default. Yes. I'm going to delete this one that doesn't have a name. Anyways, so we got a little off topic there. I'm gonna remove all of my changes for this blank business object. And then what I'm going to do, I gave my form a name. I realized that my grid also doesn't have a name. So I'm going to give it a name too. The weird thing is, I'm on version 9.1.1, I think. It didn't give me an error about any of this. So I now have to give this a name. I'm going to say journal one-step history. And then hopefully, now that this has a name, I'm going to see if I can open up my form definition. I definitely can't. So I'm going to publish this then. And what I'm going to do after that is I'm going to go make the same change. I'm going to remove my embedded form control, and then I'm going to go back onto my incident form. There's definitely an issue with me and embedded form controls right now, and I'm not sure why that is. Let's see if I can get back into here. Hey! So that's the issue. The issue was entirely that I was able to create a form without a name. So if I do this again, and I guess the way that I'm going to test this is I'll create a new form, and I'll try not to give it a name. Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. That's what got me, is I was able to do something that I did not expect was possible, and that's why. I'm not going to recreate this because this really screwed me up today. Okay, so I can now get back into my form definition. And that's all I wanted to do with this video, is just to troubleshoot how did we get here and what the resolution was. And apparently, if you try, just to give you some closing thoughts on what the issue was specifically, if you're going through your system and you try to create a new group member and you don't give it a name, and then proceed to give that new group member a form and a grid, they start off with the name of the business object, and if the business object doesn't have a name, you now have a form and a grid that don't have a name, and if you have a form that doesn't have a name, nothing that uses embedded form controls will work, because I imagine when it tries to load something without a name, it's going to screw up. Like, I don't know exactly why. I think when it's rendering, it just says, form for this render is nothing, and it assumes, well, you're not going to have anything in the system named nothing, so we'll put this preview here. I'm not sure. But it definitely screwed up my administrator tool, and it screwed up my client too. So now that that's fixed, I'm going to test this out in the client too, because I think I published this. I'm pretty sure I published it. If not, then I'm going to publish it now. I'm going to test it out in my rich client, and then I think I'm done with this video. I was in the middle of something else. I wasn't expecting to have to make this video, but as soon as I saw that error message and got halfway through it, I was like, okay, it's video time. Can I go into a new incident? Hey! Alright, great. Well, that's enough for this video. Thanks for watching.